Hello, hello! Welcome back to Small Bites. I'm here for another episode of What's Your Type? Today we're talking about the second letter in the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the MBTI. My name is Dr. Karen McDowell. I'm a licensed psychologist, therapist, and educator here at The Gracious Mind. I'm here with my colleague, Monique Champagne, also a therapist. Both of us are artists here. We do lots of work in mental health, in education, outreach, and expressive therapeutic and healing and wonderful things related to that. I'm doing this 4-part series on What's Your Type because I love the Myers-Briggs. I think it gives us so much good information about how we engage with the world around us and how we understand ourselves. And it gives us good information about how other people function as well. One of my favorite things about the MBTI is that it is not about weaknesses at all. There's nothing in it that says anything is wrong with you. It's only about strengths and it's only about preferences and skills. So that means as we're talking about this, there are no wrong answers. If something resonates with you, then it resonates with you. You don't need permission. You don't have to take a formal test. You can just listen to what I'm talking about and decide how it fits for you. Here at Small Bites, we like to take a few minutes each week to give you some information on a mental health topic. We do a YouTube video every week, and then every Wednesday at noon Central, we meet on Instagram Live to talk about these episodes and hear what you have to say and give Monique a chance to talk to y'all about these topics and respond to what I have to say today. So please do join us on Instagram, noon Central on Wednesdays. So the second letter, what's your type? The last Small Bites that I did was the first letter. We talked about the I and the E. And again, just like in that one, this one is going to be on a spectrum rather than being two specific different things, one or the other. We're going to think about these on a spectrum. So last time we talked about the I and the E as how we move around the world or how we engage with the world. That's that first letter in the 4-letter type. The second letter in the type is about how you gather information, how you collect data and information from the world around you. So one of the ends of the spectrum is the letter N, and that is for intuitive. As we know, intuitive starts with an I, but we already used an I, so I guess they decided that an N made more sense because it sounds like intuitive, so whatever, we're gonna go with it, N. So we have an N on one side, and then across the spectrum, we have an S, and an S is a sensor. So we have an N and an S. Now again, you may be a really strong N, you may be a really strong S, you may be somewhere in the middle. You might prefer one, but also be really able to do the other. You know, you can be anywhere on the spectrum. So on the N side of it, the N, like I said, stands for intuitive. And remember, this letter is about how you take in information. So for people who are on the N side of the spectrum, they're going to take in information in less tangible ways, more impressions, more instincts. They're going to be more attuned to the energy in a room. They're going to remember things more in pictures than in details. They're going to remember how they felt when they were in a certain situation. They're going to perceive other people and consider information, not just what people are saying, but all the other things that might be giving them information. That's on the N side of the spectrum. On the other side of the spectrum, the S side, that's going to be talking about people that take in information from the 5 senses. So we're talking about data. We're talking about verifiable facts, what you can see, what people said, what you can smell. Those are the information. That's the information that you're taking in. Instincts and intuition for S's don't make sense. On the S side of things, that would be like, why would I gather information about how I felt about something or my impression of something when I have hard data here, when I have facts here? On the other side, the intuitive might say, those facts are too obvious. That's just the surface level of it. What's really happening underneath, that's what how the N is gathering information. A nice example of this would be if an N and an S go for a walk in the woods. And they're walking in the woods together and they're having a great time and they're enjoying it, and they get to the other side of the woods or whatever, they finish their walk, and then they compare their experience. An N is gonna say, it was so peaceful. I could feel the wind moving and like the sound. I could tell that that the animals felt really safe because like the sounds were really calming and there was not a lot of chaos, and like the colors were really beautiful, and that's how an intuitive is going to remember that scene. A sensor is going to say, I saw oak trees and I saw elm trees and I saw some deer tracks and the path was really windy and the temperature was whatever. And so their memory of it is going to be much more in the details and in the specific observable facts. So as you think about this, you can probably see how both are beneficial and also maybe both could kind of hold you back a little bit. So as you think about Myers-Briggs types, it's not just you are this type and that's that, but you can say, oh, I felt really heavy on the intuitive side, which may mean that I'm not giving enough credit to, or I'm not paying enough attention to basic sensory details. Somebody who's very far on the S side might say, this is how I function, but I do want to be getting more information. If there's more information to be gathered, maybe I want that. So you might work on your skills to balance you out a little bit so that you, say, sitting at work or sitting with your family, that you're hearing what's going on, you're seeing what's going on, but there's also an intuitive process about what's going on as well. If you're in a relationship, you can probably imagine how arguments might go or how conflict might go. If you have these two different ways of taking in information, you might find that when you're talking about your experiences, that another person doesn't resonate with that experience. They might even be like, how did we see the same thing happen? And you remember it like that, and I remember it like this. How does that happen? Sometimes that's how the brain works when it's taking in information in these different styles. So I want to talk briefly about how those first two letters interact or how they mix together. So we have the I or the E. Somebody tends to recharge by being outward and expressing and connecting, or if somebody tends to recharge inwardly and quietly and with less stimulation. And then we have the sensor or the intuitive, if somebody's gathering impressions or if they're gathering by data. Let's say we have an introvert who is also a sensor. So probably they're the ones that are kind of quietly observing and like gathering information, and they're holding it in and they're noticing all these details. So let's say you have a work environment and you can think of somebody who you're like, oh, that person's an introvert, I know that. And also, just based on our conversations, I can tell that they gather data through very tangible and sensory ways. They might be a good person to go to and say, hey, can you give me any feedback on things that have to do with those kinds of skills? Like, do you have ideas or thoughts? Because I know you're sitting there quietly observing. On the other hand, someone who is extroverted and sensing is still going to be gathering information by observing that data. They're going to be seeing what's going on, but probably they're going to be talking about it. Probably they're going to be saying it out loud. They're going to be pointing things out. They're going to be observing. They're going to be asking people. They're going to be gathering information in a more outward kind of way. So if you know people's styles and you know people's skills and strengths, you can be more strategic about how you engage with them. Someone who is an intuitive, who is introverted, probably has a lot of observations and a lot of instinctive ideas that are probably right, that a sensor maybe wouldn't be able to find. And so working together, if you're a strong S and you know somebody who's a strong N, that could cause conflict or that could cause a really cool collaboration. So it's about not trying to force yourself to be something you're not trying to force somebody else to change their style, but figuring out how to integrate your styles. So that is the second letter on the Myers-Briggs. By now you know if you're an I or an E, or if you're an N or an S. Again, you're the expert on yourself, so whichever things seem to resonate with you most, that's probably accurate. You can look online for a Myers-Briggs test and take a formal test if you want to see it, but you don't have to. You can understand your own type just through watching videos like this. I will be back in 2 weeks with another episode, part 3 of What's Your Type. We're gonna talk about that third letter. Until then, you can join us every Wednesday on Instagram Live for Small Bites. And our Small Bites series will be back next week with Monique, who's got some awesome stuff to tell us about. And you can always find us across all social media platforms and online at thegraciousmind.com. Please do like, subscribe, comment. Those things are really helpful. We appreciate it so much. We'll see you next time on Small Bites.